I was wondering what was happening there, but it's working now. Hey,
Hey, hey, I'm Henry, man. It's great to meet you.
nice to meet you. How you getting on?
Not too bad. How's life for you? You've been working, you had time off. What's been going on?
Oh, well, I'm in a bit of a funny position with life at the moment where I'm sort of beginning the transition of moving across to the States.
Oh,
Because I married my wonderful wife at the start of the year and she's American. So I'm currently in Hawaii in our home, spending a few weeks sort of setting it up, doing a bit of DIY, helping paint the place, that sort of thing. And then I've got to go back to Glasgow again for a little while, and then I'll be coming back again. So I'm in a little bit of a limbo at the moment as life goes. It's a strange time.
yeah. Well, congratulations. First of all, that's great.
Bless you. Thank you very much.
Well, I do want to talk about Winnie the Pooh, but the thing I always like to ask people, especially the first time, is how did you get started as an actor? And was that something you had always wanted to do? Was it something you stumbled into, or was it something that you had wanted to do for a long, long time?
Oh, very good question. Um, I I think the concept of being an actor came probably a little later in life for me, but I always remember being a kid and just wanting to entertain. I would do impressions and I would do, things I'd seen in films or TV, and I'd do quotes and I'd reenact scenes. And at that point, I didn't really understand what it was I was doing. I just thought, oh, that person on the telly said something funny. And if I say it, people laugh at me as well. And I just thought it was a great way to, entertain people at like parties and stuff with family and that kind of thing. Um, and then as I sort of grew up and went through school and things, I did a couple of, school plays, and you learn a little bit more about how it all works. And by the time I was sort of approaching the end of my high school period, I was like, yeah, I kind of like this sort of thing. Maybe I'll try and pursue it. And so I went to college and I studied acting and did all that kind of thing. And yeah, it was sort of it was that sort of process where I've always kind of been a performer. I've
Mm.
always enjoyed, making people laugh and making people feel good. And it just took me a while to figure out what that was.
And were there any, whether it's movies, TV, theater, were there any performances, any movies that had an impact on you early on in that way in terms of acting? Anything that stands out, or maybe even anything recent, you know?
Ooh, I always say a huge turning point for me. I can track to the moment. A life-changing moment was my dad took me to see School of Rock
Oh man,
in the
classic.
cinemas, and I had literally never seen anything like it. I'd never heard anything like it. I grew up in a pretty traditional household. We had the only music we ever had was sort of classical music on the radio, or you might have a bit of like chart radio on the car if you were driving around. But I had never heard rock and roll in that capacity, that kind of noise. And if it was ever on in the house, it would be like, oh, turn that racket down, we
Mm.
can't have that kind of noise. And suddenly I saw Jack Black being an entirely un just unburdened by cringe, just a vessel of energy and rock and roll chaos. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, there's this whole world of noise and creativity that I've never experienced. Um, so that was a big one. I was always a big fan of Robin Williams as well, a similar kind of
Yeah,
vibe. Mrs. Doubtfire was on
classic.
regular play in the house growing up. Jumanji, Flubber, I was a big Robin Williams fan. I loved all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that kind of really, um, it kind of motivated me early on to be that kind of big, energetic, bold, expressive. Not afraid of being silly. I think that's a big thing. You can't be afraid of taking the risks. If you start to worry that you look like a fool, people will believe you.
Yeah.
So you've got to throw yourself on that grenade, so to speak. Things like that, I liked a lot of kind of stand-up comedy. I started watching, comedians from Britain, I remember when Michael McIntyre came out and he was just this big, expressive, he was quoted a lot to friends and things. So it's stuff like that, hugely influential. I always say it's loud, energetic men have done the damage in this capacity.
Yeah. Well, I do really want to ask about Winnie the Pooh. So, first of all, how did you hear about this, and then how, did you go about getting this part, or how did it all come together, really? Because I remember when the first one was announced, and it was just like so random. I'm like, okay, I guess this is a thing now. And then it seems to be, and we can talk about a little bit of it later, but it seems to almost be expanding into this like cinematic universe kind of thing in a way. And so, how did you get involved with the second one?
Well, it was kind of it almost fell in my lap, really. People talk about, the idea of like the overnight success kind of thing, and I got the part of Piglet without an audition, which was
Nice.
strange. Basically, they put the casting call out. My agent put me forward for it, and for whatever reason, they watched my show reel, they saw the pictures, and they went, "That's our little Piglet man." And I've spoken to people about this, and it is that idea of the overnight success, but it was the culmination of 10 years of experience, and it was the decade of previous work that led to that show reel and these pictures and this energy that they went, yes. And it is a weird kind of feeling of it felt like I didn't put any work into it, but then I have to remember, oh, I've been working for over a decade, and it's all led to this moment. Um, and yeah, I don't know what it was. For whatever reason, they thought we love his energy, we like his vibe. We can see something in it. And so when I spoke to them about it, they said, yeah, they said it was something to do with the kind of energy you brought to the characters, and we thought that's fun. He can bring a little weirdness, a little kind of zany kind of. So it's not just one tone. I think Piglet in the first one, great actors, the great actors in the first film, but I think they wanted slightly different. They wanted to bring a bit more character and then a little bit more personality. So I don't know what it was, but they saw it in me, and bless them, they gave this little guy a chance.
Yeah. And like, because obviously there is, some comedy to these movies, because it's like you're seeing Winnie the Pooh with like an axe and running around, and like, Piglet running around like crazy and killing people. So like what's the vibe on set like? Are people aware, this is like such, I mean, obviously very enjoyable. I didn't know I needed this in the world, but like, I'm happy that it's there. But like, is the vibe on set pretty fun? Like, people are kind of really enjoying getting to make a movie as crazy as this.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was a very enjoyable atmosphere, because you realize you're in these pretty horrifying prosthetics. You've got these masks on, and you sort of look at each other, and you realize it's all a bit ridiculous, and you all have a laugh. We'd all be sitting around in makeup together, and somebody would have to help feed us because you can't like figure out how to get the fork in your face, and all these situations would just take the tension out of it, you know. But I think that's a big part of it. You hear about that from horror films, like on set. It's you think it would be all scary and spooky, but everyone's just having a great time, and I think that's important. You've got to really take the tension out, because if you are in that mindset the whole time, you'd go crazy. You'd lose
Hmm.
your marbles. So you've got to find the lightness. And there were lots of great moments where, like, me and the other guys, we'd be either in makeup with the great makeup team, or we'd be sat in our trailer, or and you're waiting around for hours at a time to be used, and so you get to know each other, and you find the jokes, and you have little banter moments, and I think that's important for any working environment, but especially when you're doing like 12-hour night shoots, and it's 2 a.m. and you're still going. You've got to get on with each other. You've got to find the good vibes.
Yeah. Were you or are you either a fan of slasher movies and or were you a Winnie the Pooh fan growing up? Was that anything in your world, or was this all like you knew about it and you was like, okay, cool, I'll do it. That sounds fun.
I would say I'm definitely more of a Winnie the Pooh fan than I am a slasher fan.
Mm.
Because it's quite surreal. I would never have considered myself a horror movie person. I was always a bit of a scaredy cat. I was always a bit of a coward. I was like, oh, it's too much, it's too much. But interestingly, the style of movie that Winnie the Pooh is, that's the kind of horror movies that I do enjoy. So it's odd how it's kind of came together. I like, Halloween. I like zombie movies. I like your low budget B movie, blood and guts, silly practical effects. The Thing. Give me anything like that where it's real stuff on the
Yeah.
screen. And so going into Blood and Honey, I was a bit anxious maybe, or I was like, oh, I don't know what this is going to be like. And then it was all that. It was all practical effects, buckets of fake blood, very silly. And it was just, I was like, ah, cool. Okay. And then watching the film, I was like, this is the sort of film that I do like. So it weirdly, yeah, it all kind of worked out in the end. Um, but yeah, the Winnie the Pooh thing, I'm a big fan of Winnie the Pooh. My whole life, I had the books, I watched the TV shows, and Piglet was always my favorite character, which is really weird to say that I now am him in a sort of weird universe version. Life is funny.
Yeah.
Life is a strange thing.
Well, now having done it, can you look at Winnie the Pooh characters, the OG things, and the movies and everything the same? Are you always like, where's the blood? You know, like, or can you just like, okay, kind of tune out that blood and honey is there and just kind of enjoy the classic character?
There has definitely been a little bleed over, so to speak, if I pardon the pun.
Mm.
I do see kind of OG Winnie the Pooh stuff, and I can't help but think of the blood and honey thing. And it adds a weird kind of undercurrent to it now. You try and separate it, but it's there. It's in the back of your mind, and you go, "Oh, there's Winnie the Pooh. I wonder what horrific things he's going to get up to today." No, that's not right. That's the different Pooh, and you've got to try and keep them apart. But I don't know. It all gets jumbled up and becomes a big, beautiful mash.
Yeah. And you haven't even brought up the makeup. So what was the prosthetics, the makeup? Was that a pretty extensive process? Was it fairly simple? Like, because it seemed like a pretty great bit of prosthetics that you got to wear at least, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure the quickest we got to was about an hour and a half from start to finish. So it's because it wasn't just one mask, it took a lot longer. So there were multiple pieces, and I would sit in the chair, and I found it very therapeutic, quite relaxing, I thought. And I've been told I'm a freak for for that. It's like you shouldn't be enjoying this, but it's like sensory deprivation. It's like a spa day. It's like, oh, just relaxing. And they would start with, there was like a big neck piece. So that would go on, and it was kind of like Batman's cowl. So you'd get that on first, and then they'd have to glue all the bits, and then you'd have to wait for the glue to finish, and then there was a chin piece and the big nose and all sorts of stuff. So there were maybe five or six individual pieces, and each piece needed like at least 10 minutes for the glue to dry. So it was an ongoing process. But bless them, Sean and Paula, the makeup team, were incredible, and they were just both they were like a dream team. The two of them were going at it, boom, 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 and yeah, we got it pretty quick by the end. I think, considering the first few tries took a long time, um, and then when you had it on, you didn't really notice you had it on. It was very light, and very easy to kind of move. And I think that was the idea. They wanted the prosthetics rather than a mask because then you can see all the the gruesome facial stuff, and it allows the eyes to shine, and the mouth moved when I wanted it to move, and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what they were going for. They just wanted a little bit more expression from because the first film they had that kind of Michael Myers classic, like
Mhm.
it was just static and there was no facial expressions. But I think they wanted a little bit more realism maybe in the second one. I'm excited to see what they cook up for the third one, because I don't want to give anything away for anyone who's not seen it, but Piglet might have a fresh new cut, so to speak. We'll see what the pig looks like. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because I was actually just thinking the same thing. I didn't want to give anything too much away, but so there will be a reprisal of some kind, a reappearance of Piglet in three, in one
This
way or
is
the other.
this is it. I believe I'm allowed to say that it's happening, yes. And that is about as much as it is.
Mm.
Um, Piglet will be back. I think pretty much the whole gang. I don't know how much I can say, but Piglet will be back in one way or another. Let's go with that.
That's good. And because I've only become a slasher movie fan maybe in the last 5 or 6 years, but I feel like this is one of those series now that you can make 20 of them and I would watch all of them. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's just one of those things that's so like malleable. You can just do whatever you want with it. And if the quality's there, the crew, the cast, it's like, hey, why not make more? There's always going to be an audience, no matter what. Like, you
Oh
know,
yeah. The,
so.
the the audience love it. It's an incredible reaction. So if people want the films, we'll keep making them. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
And I did see because it's not available where I am yet, but do you have not as Piglet, but do you have a role in Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare? Did I read that correctly?
Oh, a little cameo role,
Okay.
yes.
W-
Not as Piglet, just as a person, a little character in there. That was fun.
so what is there much that like is that just taking Peter Pan and like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, turning that into a horror like story, basically?
Very, very much so. They've got loads of them coming. They've got the Peter Pan one, which is like, a grown-up sort of version of Peter Pan. Like what if he was kidnapping kids and all that kind of stuff? That's the concept of that one. They've got the Bambi movie coming. There was a Cinderella one. There's Pinocchio.
Mm.
I think there's been talk of Popeye. At some point, I don't know. But that's what I mean. They could literally you could churn these out and you can make hundreds of them.
Mm.
And it's a great concept. Just take beloved childhood characters, make them murderous psychopaths, go wild.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun for all the family.
Yeah, because my wife and I are both we like the like classic fairy tale stuff, and when we saw this happening, my wife was just like, "Oh God, like this is just gonna like, oop, just it's just gonna like completely change my perspective on these classic fairy tales I love. Winnie the Pooh, Cinderella, whatever. It's just like it's a whole new world, really.
Oh yeah, a
Yeah,
brave new world.
yeah. And well, when you're not acting, what are some things that you enjoy doing on your off time? Do you have, certain hobbies, interests? What are some things that helps you wind down?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? When something you enjoy becomes a job,
Mm.
uh because I love acting, I love performing. But when you're at the stage where it's like, oh, it's you're trying to make a livelihood out of it, yeah, it becomes you need other things. So I'm also I'm a musician as well. I'm in a band, that's a good outlet for me. I'm also a comedian and I write comedy music as well. So that's a kind of crossover of those two worlds. Um, I realize a lot of my hobbies it's mostly just other forms of performance, really.
Mm.
Never take a day off. That's the
Yeah.
problem. That's the problem I have. I'm always doing something with fingers in pies. Too many pies. That's the problem. But yeah, music, comedy. Apart from performance stuff, I enjoy a lot of let's say nerdy pursuits. You can see the Star Wars boy.
Yeah.
Big Star Wars fan. I love a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, anything like that. Um, After this interview, actually, I'm going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons later today.
Nice.
A little online session. Love a bit of Dungeons and Dragons. Big video game fan. All the classic nerdy stuff. I'm a standard millennial nerd. I
Hey,
like
same, same.
all the good stuff. I'm a big coffee fan. And you can see I've got two
Yeah,
machines in the back there, you
I can
see.
see.
This is what I mean. We've sort of moved into this place and we've not painted, but we've got the coffee set up. That's the
Hey, got to do that.
it's important. It's very important. Um, what else? I mean, I like loads of things. I like going to watch stuff. I like going to see bands, get inspired that way. I like to think that I can skateboard. I can't skateboard,
Mm.
but I'm holding on to it. Stuff like that. Anything that gets me out the house, that kind of thing. Yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in finding new things. I'm a big film fan, that kind of stuff. Anything that's entertaining and interesting. Yes.
Yeah, and well, you talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played it much. I've been around people who have played it, but I did see the movie that came out,
Oh,
and that was one that also kind of came out of nowhere. It's like this is great. It's like,
yeah.
I thought because you never know with video game movies. It can be so unpredictable as to do they understand how to make this cinematic? And I think they did a pretty good job with that. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
As a D&D fan, I was very impressed. They and it comes down to having the respect for the source material, And a lot of the reason video game movies fail is because they take a video game concept and go, yeah, we don't need any of that. We're just going to turn it into a action movie, and they lose any of the character, any of the soul that was present. And the Dungeons and Dragons movie was incredible, I
mm,
thought. I
mm.
thought they did a beautiful job. They had a lot of representation of stuff within the source material, and it was just a shame nobody went to see it. You know? I think it was poorly marketed, and I don't know who to blame. Somebody dropped the ball.
Mm,
But that movie should have made $100 million. It
mm.
was so much fun. It should have been the summer blockbuster, and I really hope that somebody takes a chance and makes a sequel because you could, again, like you say, you could keep that concept going for
Yeah,
20 films because Dungeons and Dragons is such a huge universe, uh, and they barely scratched the surface in that one. You could go on quests for 100 movies,
yeah,
but it is tricky, isn't it? In the day and age we live in, some I don't know. It takes a lot of work to get people out to the cinema. Um, and I don't know what to do. That's a different issue. We're not going to get into the failings of cinema and all the anguish that comes with that. But man, no, great film. The
yeah,
D&D movie was great, and
yeah,
I really hope we get more of it.
yeah,
Or like a TV show or something, because that the concept was just
yeah.
sublime.
Yeah, well. Last thing. just on video games again, I don't mean to go too far away, but are there any other video game movies that stand out to you as ones that you have enjoyed? Just while we're on the topic.
Oh, I mean, the big success recently, of course, was The Last of Us. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw the
Yeah.
TV show.
Oh yeah.
That was stunning. Um, and again, I think it came down to just a respect for the source material. Like the first episode was there were those moments where it was like a frame by frame reshooting of it, and it's like somebody has taken the time to play the game, and
Yeah.
they've got these cinematic moments, and your brain goes, "That I played this. Oh my God!" Um, but it did its own thing as well, and that's where an adaptation is important. It took itself far enough away from the source material that it was worth watching, but it stayed close enough to it that you were familiar with the story and you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
Last of Us was amazing. I don't really know. I liked the Mario movie. I liked the
Yeah.
Mario Brothers
I did
movie.
too. Yep.
That was a good fun. Again, because I think they didn't take it too seriously and they just had fun with it. And they were like, this is Mario. It's not serious.
Hmm.
It's a silly little plumber. There's mushrooms and stars and turtles. Let's be goofy. And the tone was really good in the
Yeah.
Mario Brothers movie. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of others that have been good recently. The problem is they're normally pretty crap.
Yeah. Did you see the Fallout series? The Amazon. I,
Fallout, yes, I forgot
yeah.
about that. I
Yeah.
liked that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the thing. It's kind of it seems to be that TV shows work much better for like a
Mm.
video game adaptation.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder, is the problem that there's just too much material to fit into a movie?
Maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like long form television, you have multiple hours. You can explore as much as you like.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Again, that's a different conversation about storytelling and writing and things. The cinema versus home cinema, so to speak. Yeah, Fallout was great.
Yeah.
I saw they had the New Vegas set was in
Oh yeah.
somewhere. They had
Mm.
the set, the sound stage was set up. Very excited for season two.
Yeah.
Um, man, I can't think. I'm sure there are others that have been good,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
can't think right now.
No, no, those are definitely some of the ones I would agree with as well. But well, I think that's about all I have, Eddie. But I loved having you on, and would love to have you back on again sometime. When we get future
Hey,
films or anything like that. But really enjoy Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and so just I just had so much fun with it, and I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I will take care and good luck with the move and everything.
Thank you very much. Hopefully so. We'll see how it goes.
See you, Eddie.